All right, Joe, I'm going to read these off very quickly, and I want your thoughts.
Yes.
So if you missed it, if you're just, I know that, there's a lot of people, like I know a lot of people in the Southeast at least, it's winter break. Maybe you missed this on Twitter yesterday as Ross Dellinger reported proposals of changing college football. Joe, I'm just going to read them off really quickly. There's 4 of them. Number 1, prohibiting consecutive timeouts, meaning you can't call a timeout and then immediately call a timeout right after. That's number 1. No untimed downs on first and in the first or third quarter. Yeah, whatever. The clock runs on first down except of 2 minutes to end the half. Why you're trying to be like the NFL, I don't know. Number 4, clock. Here is probably the stupidest, and I am talking about in the 32 years of life, the stupidest proposal of any sport I've ever heard. Number 4, the clock runs on incompletions once the ball is spotted. What are we doing? What are we doing?
I think everyone can agree that these rules are unnecessary and almost in a way are a distraction. And I think there's multiple things that need to be discussed with this, but the first and foremost, none of these are necessary. In the early stages of the NFL, I'm talking back in the 1930s, they were mirroring college football, and they realized by mirroring college football, they were not as exciting as a product. And they vastly changed the rules, which led to the evolution of the game back in the 1930s. But my point here is, why the hell is college football trying so hard to be the NFL when there has never been an issue? There has never been an audience retention issue for college football. It's not like the NFL when there's a blowout going on between the Houston Texans and the Chicago Bears. And like, that's a terrible game. And they'll switch games in the middle of various feeds going on. In college football, it is a rare circumstance to even analyze and to think about how fans of their teams will watch them get their asses kicked and also will watch them destroy FCS programs all the way until the end. Now, I don't have the retention numbers in front of me, but I can say pretty confidently that the audience of college football as a sport is not worried about the time length of the game. I don't understand why we're wasting our time trying to speed up the game. And one of the most interesting things in that article written by Ross Dellinger is that it only takes off a couple of minutes off of the average game. It's not like we're speeding this up by a whole 30 minutes. It's 5 minutes. Why are we wasting our time on this? This is absolutely ridiculous. And I think that that's the main point here, Blake, is that this is a distraction. They're trying to distract us from other larger issues by pitching something stupid like this. So we all get mad about it.
Well, I agree with you. The NFL game, so on average, is only 3 minutes and 42 seconds shorter than college football. You know why that might be? They also have shorter half times.
Yes.
Okay. They have college football has about a 30-minute halftime. Okay. 30-minute halftime. The NFL has about a 15-minute halftime. Okay. Here's an idea. Who gives two Rudy Poos if a band's playing at halftime? Because I got to be honest, I mean, I know that there are a lot of people that love, the $1 Million Band in Alabama, the Golden Band from Tigerland. I don't know if the Irish have a band. I mean, who really knows?
It's got one of the best in the country.
Don't
watch yourself.
I'm joking, trying to take a little shot at you. Mm-hmm. But I just don't get it. Let me just say this. Number one, who are these college football executives that are trying to change this? That is the biggest problem that I have. Put a face to it.
Yeah.
Is it the new NCAA president who is a sitting governor of Massachusetts who has no football background? Is he the one trying to change this? Probably not. But, Joe, I can make an argument for all of these rule changes. The only one that I don't really care about is the untimed down. You don't want the untimed down. You want to play it next quarter. It is what it is. Okay, if that makes your jollies all get off, then fine by me. But prohibiting consecutive timeouts, everybody's like, oh, well, who cares? Well, let me just tell you this. Let me give a scenario. I gave the scenario last night. I'll pitch it to you.
Okay.
Let's say hypothetically a team is trying to drive down the field. Okay. They're down by 6 and they throw a long bomb. The receiver catches this, gets tackled at the 2-yard line. Timeout. Okay. Gets tackled in bounds. Timeout. Well, you have 2 more timeouts remaining. Well, you run out there. You got 4 seconds left on the clock. The defense shows you a look that the play that you called is not going to work. You're going to lose the game. Why don't you have the option to call another timeout to get the right play in? You've gone an entire half without calling timeouts. The objective of timeouts is obviously you want to use those strategically. It's a part of a strategic thing inside the game. So what the NFL doesn't allow. This isn't the NFL. Like, you don't have to be the NFL. Joe, I love the Saints. I love the NFL. Don't get me wrong. It's amazing. But if I want to watch the NFL, I'll click on Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays. If I want to watch college football, I want to watch college football. And I got to find out, why is there no pushback from the SEC commissioner, Greg Sankey? Why is there no pushback from any other commissioners who knows that these rules are idiotic? And then you know what they won't do, Joe?
Yeah.
They won't take any more of the media timeouts out of the game. Why don't you do a split screen? Say that there's a timeout throughout the game. Show the ad in a split box. Joe, me and you are literally thousands of miles away from one another. And we do a split screen and do a show. You mean to tell me that ESPN, CBS, and NBC can't do it?
Well, I mean, we do see the NFL doing a lot of that more often. And I think, though, that they're probably not going to try to make any adjustments to the ad stuff. But
because it's all about money.
Well, but yeah, we need to make money to support the game and for it to continue to grow and to be able to continue to reinvest in it. But my main qualm with all this, Blake, is that why is the emphasis on trying to adjust the time length of the game? And this is why I think it's designed to be a distraction. Why are we worried about making the game shorter? Why is that what the intention is when we have rampant lack of control over NIL, over the transfer portal? All of that is poorly regulated. And that, to me, all of the attention by these executives needs to be put on. That's what needs to be focused on, is working out and fixing all the issues with NIL and the transfer portal. Because right now, that's what's a detriment to the game. That is what is detracting from the quality of play on the field, the quality of recruiting, just the quality of roster building in general. And I understand those that believe that NIL and the transfer portal are good for college football, and I'm one of those people. But there is a lack of rules in place that allow for
a lack of institutional control for all of college football. Correct.
Yes, and we have situations like that happen with Texas A&M, where I don't want to know that something like that is happening with a program where we've got a bunch of money-hungry kids who aren't invested in the program. There needs to be some type of regulation put in place, and that's what we need to focus our attention on. And that's your point you brought up earlier. We need some type of commissioner. And I think that, I will say, this might be the catalyst that pushes us closer to one massive conference eventually coming in the next decade or so. I would not be surprised if this does not spurn motivation for a guy like Sankey to push for that. Maybe that's why he hasn't talked about it.
No, and you're right. He wants more money, which then puts more money into his pocket. I think you're right. I think we're going to 2 major conferences. I think the Big Ten, SEC, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be 2 major conferences. You're going to divide the country. You're going to do the North versus the South. I mean, let's call it what it is. Yeah. I mean, South's going to win. But anyway, well, I mean, they're already winning. I mean, it's not like things are going to change anyway. I think that the part about this is, so the NCAA, so people didn't notice this, and I asked people last night on my show, did you know that the NCAA went back to court and got their asses handed to them last week? When they
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they got their asses handed to them because they proposed. They proposed that college athletes are not employees. Okay, well, when you start getting the federal government involved, they were like, listen, the way that you presented this, they are employees. You give them room and board. You give them a stipend. Basically, they're a 1099 employee to some extent. My own thing about this is I feel like the NCAA, the conferences, all of them, I think they're all in on this secret conspiracy, Illuminati type of college football stuff because they all are like, Joe, when you're in politics, and not to go down that road because we don't talk politics on the show, sometimes you go to the federal government so the federal government can tell you, well, you need to do X, Y, and Z so that the NCAA president, Sankey, all of these dudes don't look like the bad guy. You just sit there and you say, well, it's not in my control. The government said we had to do this. That's what they're constantly going to the federal government for. But you're right. You don't have it tamed on NIL because, quite frankly, you can't. You cannot tame just capitalism. And why should you? I mean, Joe, quite honestly, and let's call it what it is, teams have been doing this from the beginning. It just didn't have a public face.
Yeah.
I know of guys. So, Joe, like, I'll give a story. We won our conference, okay? And this is FCS. This isn't SEC. The starting quarterback, and I'm not going to say what year, what quarterback it was, when we beat our rival, he had $7,500 sitting in his locker room in an envelope.
At Southeastern Louisiana?
At Southeastern Louisiana, okay? There are some boosters that are still at these programs. You mean to tell me North Dakota State doesn't have some boosters?
Oh, like, they do. They definitely do.
My point is, now what do you think's going on at these major institutions? It's always been going on. But here's my thing. Here's the problem with all of it. They don't know how to regulate the transfer portal. The transfer portal is what ultimately sparks a lot of this because kids can go wherever they want. Now, if they
they're also being actively recruited while on rosters without being in the portal.
Correct. Now, because that goes on the premise of that these kids can transfer whenever they want to, and there's no regulations on the portal. I can make the argument, I believe, that the portal is more detrimental than NIL. The teams that are on top in recruiting these past 2 years, historically, are the same teams that are always on top, right? Like, that's not changing. So is it really an NIL issue? Now, maybe some of those teams get a little bit better because they can pay for more kids publicly, whatever. Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's, like you said, and you're so right with this, there's so many more issues along college football that, Joe, we're going to start running the clock after an incompletion when the ball's spotted. Dude, let me just tell you something. These nerds, they're nerds. These pencil pushing, glasses wearing, no punt, no like shot at you. Nerd head asses are out here trying to change the game for what? For what, Joe? They didn't play the game. They don't know. Bro, last point. You got Condoleezza Rice on the college football playoff committee. You're got a petition from the University of Cal. From Cal, Berkeley, from the college football playoff committee. And you're trying to tell me that those people know more football than me. Get out of here with that.